Well, hello, Esther Thane. I am so excited to have you here. And you are such a kindred spirit in the music world with a BMT, MTA, and AVPT. Of course, that's acronym soup for a bachelor in music and music therapy. You know music inside and out. You've specialized since 1996 in neurodivergent individuals with diverse needs. And after over a decade on faculty at Capilano University, you continue to present conferences, publish and consult, and hold workshops and in-services. In 2014, you completed the Dr. Diane Austin's Music Psychotherapy Center in New York training, and also advanced psychotherapy. And your publication in the book Voice Work and the Music Therapy focuses on innovative methods on vocal-led relaxation for children with autism. I can go on and on. You're just an amazing woman, and you have a woman creating a better world for all award presented by the Women Economic Forum in New Delhi, India. I am just so proud to be with you and interviewing you. And so tell me, what got you started in music?
Well, first of all, right back at you, Miss Simmons. You're definitely a powerhouse yourself, and happy to be in your company today, as always. Thank you so much for wanting to interview me. What brought me to music therapy? Well, that's a long-winded story. I'll try to keep it short, but my sister is a concert pianist, and I was always brought up with music. It's kind of all we did in our house. Well, I was in, piano lessons, voice lessons, choir, etc. So it kind of made sense that my trajectory would go towards music in some capacity as a career. But I knew I didn't want to teach music education in schools, and I also didn't want to be a sole performer and have a performer's life. So it was just kind of, I stumbled upon music therapy. It was suggested to me, and I kind of jumped in without really knowing what it was about. But my gut told me that this was kind of the right career choice. So never looked back, really.
And music is the language of the gut and the heart. It really, really is. It
Yeah.
communicates with so many. Oh, I remember those days. My grandmother was an opera singer, and everyone
Wow.
la 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 la, la 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 la. Anyway, um,
Well, and everybody's got a story, right? Everybody has a connection to music in some way. And I think that's why it so naturally works as a therapeutic medium.
yeah, and you find a lot of people with autism and neurodiversity really gravitate towards music. I just really find that a lot. What would you say was one
Yeah.
of the driving factors that gave you the passion to develop a program for field practitioners?
Oh, well, I think there were a couple of driving forces. One is, I was kind of getting burnt out from doing direct clinical work. It was tough. In the early years, I mean, I've been at this for almost 3 decades. And years ago, there were not a lot of us working in the field of autism. Of course, there were very few people actually getting diagnosed. And the ones that were getting diagnosed were really high support needs. And I
Mhm.
didn't have a big community around me to support and to go to for peer support and consultation, etc. So, kind of winging it as a sole practitioner, I really burnt out. But I knew I didn't want to leave the field of music, and I didn't want to leave the field of autism. I absolutely adore, the autistic community. I think they are what makes our world an interesting place to live in. And I think we can learn so much from autistic people in general. So um, I kind of decided to grow my practice and, uh, share with them what things I had found that works, what doesn't work, all the different activities and curriculum that I, created and composed over the years. And so it became a really seamless way to train my staff, having it all, not just in my head, but
Mhm.
finally written down. And when I decided to do that, it made sense to do that on a cloud platform,
Mm.
because then I could organize it, I could have that accessibility, and yeah, it just made everything more supportive, more easy to access, and bring a whole hub, a team together.
Yeah, the cloud platform is really a good way to go because it has so much flexibility and it makes it so much easier to edit and change things on the fly as opposed to writing a book. I find
Yeah.
a lot of people are excited about that.
Yeah, I think that's the key, because it's always growing and it's always evolving and changing, and you have that rigidity if you're publishing a book or something in that kind of traditional avenue. To, like you said, you have to go in, you have to do another edition, you have to try to convince people what's better about the second edition than the first edition, etc.
Mhm.
So this can keep evolving, just
Yeah.
like, AI technology and everything else is always evolving. So can my program, which is really cool.
And it's good because the world is speeding up so much more and more
Yes.
nowadays. So you have to
Yeah.
keep up. I know I took my kids to the orchestra when they were younger. I was just watching that and taught them, actually got them on stage with the conductor. And we have a little video of all of them, doing this. So it was really a good experience for them.
Yeah.
What do you think are the things that appeal to people with autism about music? Is it the rhythm? Is it the tones? Or what do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of what you just said, and that's a really great question, because there's been a lot of research done showing that music is a medium that autistic individuals and kids especially gravitate towards more than other mediums. And I think the number one principle is that music is a non-threatening language, and it is a language that isn't necessarily verbal.
Mhm.
So, especially if you are nonverbal or have different modes of communicating, we all can communicate through the music together. And then also some of the really unique aspects of so many kiddos with autism, like memory recall,
Mhm.
huge. Like, we hear from parents all the time, oh, my child hears one song, and then they go to the piano and they try, they remember everything. And I think that's something that is such an amazing trait, and that really um it gets supported, and it really boosts confidence in the music when that memory recall is high, or their sequencing skills. And there's also been a lot of research that shows that you know there's a good portion of kiddos who are autistic that have relative or even perfect pitch. So
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
do excel at
Mhm.
music, and like anything in life, whenever we excel at something, that motivates us to engage in it more. So
Right.
it becomes a natural place for kids to live in and want to relate to the world and be more receptive in connecting and interacting with another person in the musical space as opposed to other spaces. So it's kind of like, for us, I always say we're a little spoiled as music therapists, because music is the carrot in front of the horse, right? It is the natural motivator, and and really music is the built-in reward, because
Yeah.
when you hit a drum, you get that instant gratification of sound. When you create music, you get this cathartic release. When you're singing, everything that we do when we engage in music, it's an instant reward. There's no need to create external rewards. So I think that instant gratification is a
Mhm.
huge part of why autistic kiddos really love, and not all of them. I
No,
mean, I
lots
can't
of them.
generalize, but certainly in my experience, a large portion. for sure.
Are there jobs for kids? Like
Sorry?
after, are there jobs for kids? Like what types of jobs and employment, opportunities are there for kids with music, either are very talented in music and art? I'm
Oh,
sure there's got to be a lot more than there are being shown to people
I
because
think so. I think so.
yeah,
You know,
there are.
we've had in the past, I've had a client who is unbelievably talented in the music realm and is looking now at going to school to become like a producer, a mixer, to be
Okay.
able to mix and blend music tracks, etc., because his ear is just so amazing. So I think that is a huge field that could really is underutilized right now for kids. Yeah.
I do think it is. I think we've focused a lot too much on tech, and I think we need to also open the doors for gifts, strengths, and talents. Like
Yeah.
that's what we're about, is focusing on the gifts, strengths, and talents of people with autism and neurodiversity. And that's letting them do what they want to do, not forcing them into a box of what
Yes.
mom and dad want, or grandpa, follow in my footsteps model. I just think music is the best thing in the world. It's such a communicating force within us all over the world and connects everybody.
Yes.
How do you see your program evolving in the future, like with Unitas and growing the program and increasing the reach? How do you see that grow?
Well, I think that the program itself, the curriculum is called Meet the Music. It's hosted on Unitas TI, which is a therapy and education platform. It's being used by music therapists globally already. Um, and what is really fun for me is, again, coming back to that evolving of the program. When we have our subscribers, when we have music therapy clinics and practices, when they reach out to me and they say, hey, do you have any activities for this? We're looking for auditory discrimination. We're looking for group music therapy goals, or we need something with more visual cards and reinforcers. Then that gives me the inspiration, the fodder to build the curriculum further and grow it more. And it's really based on the needs out there. And so it really makes it beneficial to everybody globally. So I certainly want to grow our community that we have, even of our music therapy programs within the Unitas TI platform, and be able to say, it'd be great to have a rehabilitation, a stroke rehabilitation, or a mental health music therapy program. Mine is, of course, very much about autism, neurodiversity, other diverse needs, ADHD, Down syndrome, et cetera, et cetera. But being able to bring on more music therapists that have stellar programs that, have been plodding away, doing their work. And over the years, unbeknownst to them, they've got a curriculum. That's kind of how I stumbled into
Yes,
it all.
that's great.
Yeah.
What is the most rewarding thing you've experienced with what you're doing, with the work that you're doing?
Probably the discovery of how powerful intention can be. Years ago, I used to have a mentor, and her name was Darlene Berenger. She was a music therapist out of Montreal, and she kind of created all of these treatment centers around the world called Giant Steps.
Oh
And
yeah.
when she was first training me years ago, she would walk into the room, and if I was with a kiddo who was really dysregulated, all of a sudden they would look at her and, they would just melt. And I thought, man, this woman is so witchy. There's something about her. What is she doing? And I never, at that time, I never really figured it out. And then later on, many years later, when I started going into my staff's sessions, when they reach out and they, say, I can't figure this kiddo out, I can't connect with them. I just feel
Mhm.
like I'm following them around the room, or they're so in crisis, they're dysregulated, I don't know if they're in pain physically, they're crying, they're, trying to get out of the door, or they're just sitting there looking at me, and I would come in and the same thing started happening to me. And I realized when I put the two and two together that it was really about my intention, that this child didn't know me at all. And I'm walking in the room and I'm not sure what their level of receptive language comprehension is.
Mm.
That child might be nonverbal. And I would just look at them and say things with intention, like, it's okay. I know what you're feeling. I know I'm here to help you. And I would try things like rhythmic pulsing on their body, and singing just a few notes back and forth, kind of going from like a pendulum from one note to the other repeatedly over and over again, and creating this container. And they would regulate, they would calm down, they would almost give this big sigh out. And then I realized, you know what? She wasn't witchy. I'm not witchy. It was about intention. It was about me having this intention and conveying this unconditional love. And I think we're so more connected to each other than we really think we are.
We
If
are.
if we allow ourselves to open up to that, and if I in my mind say I'm here to help, and you will calm down. What I'm doing is going to help you. And it worked, And so my staff would then say to me, flash forward, oh, you're so witchy, Esther. I don't know what you do. You've got this essence. I said, no, you've got it too. Everyone has it. Everyone has the ability to help another individual if your intention is there, if your energy is organized, and you really have that. What is the outcome in your mind? It's kind of like the Jedi, those scenes in Star Wars where he said, I can't even remember what the statement is. I'd have to ask my husband now, but he just kind of, Obi-Wan Kenobi waved his arm and said, you will, da 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 da, right? It's almost like that. It's yeah, intention. So I think that was, gosh, I think one of the hugest lessons and joys, because once I understood that, then I could replicate it with all these different individuals and connect with them in a way that really, in the moment when they were in crisis, I could make a difference and I could make an impact. And that was
That
a huge joy.
that is very beautiful and very intentional and joyous. And I love that. And so, do you have any other things that you want to tell our audience? Any more intentional thoughts?
I would just say that whoever is listening to this, music has always been a part of our humanism, of who we are as human beings throughout the history of time. And take an opportunity to see how you can connect with your child through music. You don't have to be a musician. You don't have to read music. You don't even need to have a good voice. If it's your child, you know, they love you. They have been listening to your voice in since they were in utero at 4
Yes.
months old. The oral, the auditory system is the first system to get developed in utero, and it's at 4 months
Wow.
already. And so, just relax and open up and see how you can communicate and be playful with your child with autism. You don't need to be a music therapist.
No.
Just because there is this field of music therapy doesn't mean that we have the patent on music and being able to use music. Everybody can use music and bring it back into the home, instead of
Yeah.
us
Oh,
paying tickets to go see people perform at a concert. That's fantastic too, and that's music therapy in itself,
right.
right? There's lots of different versions of it, but but we can do that in our own
Oh,
homes
yeah,
too,
in the
you know,
car,
in the
anywhere. I mean,
car,
like, we're
anywhere.
always rocking out and just singing at the top of our lungs and harmonizing. And like I was, I was telling my daughter that I used to play Teaching Peace by Red Grammer because it was very peaceful and it's really, a kid music, right? I missed a
Yeah.
whole decade of music because I was listening to kids songs in the car with the kids, right?
Yeah.
And we'd be singing down the road. And she says, I remember that. So then she pulled it up and like sent it to me about a week ago. She says, I knew all the words.
Yeah.
We did remember it. Part of her remembered every one of those words. And so I think it's important, music is just so important to all of us.
Well, and I think what you just said right now, that brings up a huge point. Like the fact that all these years later, your daughter, who is an adult now, still remembers and recalls it. This is
Yeah.
why music can be so useful, like in the field of Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
When you're working with somebody who's lost their speech, lost their ability to recognize their loved ones, but when you go way back, they will be able to sing songs that they learned as a child. Those
Yeah.
memories don't go away. I was brought up in a Lutheran family, and for our confirmation, we had to memorize all the books of the Bible of the
Oh,
New Testament, and there was a song for it.
yeah.
And I still remember it because it was connected to a song, and I could
Right.
recite all the books of that,
Exactly.
it's crazy, and I don't use it often, but it's
Yeah.
still there. It's like it's stuck in those memory banks,
Oh,
and,
yeah. It sure
so
is.
it's something very powerful, I think.
It is. My mom says if you want to, remember something, just make a sing song about it. And then I taught my kids all the states in the United States because I'm from the States with that one song, Alabama, Alaska, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Right? Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California. Anyway, they know that and they pass all their tests on asking questions about the states. But
That's great.
have a lot of fun with music and music. That's what music's about. Joy,
Yeah.
happiness. And anyway, I'm going to ramble on as this is your interview. So I really, really appreciate you and what you're doing, Esther. You're
Thank you, Karen. I
amazing.
appreciate you and what you're doing with autism today and exceptional resources. You've always had a real drive to make the world a better place and more inclusion for the neurodiverse community. So happy to be a little part of that.
You are going to be a bigger part of that too. But thank you so much. So I told you we're going down to the School of Rock next week. So that's exciting to teach a course on, music, teaching the teachers and helping the teachers understand how to teach kids with autism and neurodiversity.
Yeah.
Because it's a different world, but people can learn from that. They can learn, like neurotypical people can learn the way we teach neurodiverse or neurodivergent people. And so I think it just opens the world up so much more to a better way of understanding. So thank you very much, Esther. And we'll see you next round, right?
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.